this lesson is going to teach you a little bit about wood burning and some of your different options using wood burning tools. So for starters, I'm going to show you one of the wood burners like what we have in class. You can tell this one here has been well used. The cool thing about wood burners is that they have exchangeable tips. So right now, this one has an embossing stamp on it. I think it's coming in right there. It's kind of a square shape. So you can change those out to do different things when you are burning wood. So the key to changing those is to make sure, one, it is either cooled off, or two, you use a pair of pliers to change out those tips. You never want to touch a hot tip. You will definitely burn yourself with that. So usually when I'm changing out the tips, I just use the pliers, and then if you turn the pliers or turn the wood burner, then that tip is able to come out. Now I'm touching mine because I know it's not plugged in, I know it's not hot, but I can take that tip out, and then I have a big selection of all kinds of other tips that can be put in there. You guys are in luck for this assignment because I actually have a ton of wood burning tips and options that can be used in class, and I'll be bringing mine in for you guys to see. So like I have a whole tray full. There are different styles of chisel tip. There's fine point tips like this one. I have rounded tips that you can burn with. This one actually will make a leaf shape if you want it to. So lots of different embossing things and patterns, designs. There are and signs, exclamation marks. Like I said, I have all different kinds of letters in there if you want to write something or spell something. I have numbers, and then just a few different symbols as well. So like I said, lots of options for this activity. There's a pound sign or a hashtag. We've got teardrops, snowflakes, or flowers, whichever you want to call that, hearts. You'll just have to look through them and see if there are any things that you like. Like this one has a little arrow on it, so that one could be fun too. So one of the things that I do for extra money on the side is I burn hats. So I have accumulated quite a few tools over time to use with this. I'm actually going to go ahead and put this tip back in to my wood burner just because I'm not needing to change out right now. They just screw right in. So once you get it tight, then that will stay and you're ready to use it. Now, when it's plugged in, it will get hot. So we have several of these little stands as well. They are just made for the groove of the wood burner to rest inside of it. And that is one way to hold it up so that your hot wood burner is not laying on your table or laying on your mat. The other thing that I have purchased for you to use when doing wood burning in the classroom are some metal trays, some little cookie sheets. So when you are wood burning, you can set this on the countertop. This is more safe to set your wood burning tool on so that it doesn't burn our brand new counters in the classroom. So like I said, we do have tools that will hold them, but I would prefer that you have some sort of a pan underneath it just to protect a little bit further. All right, so I'm going to set this wood burner to the side. I already have a few of mine that are heating up, and those are the ones that I'm going to use to show you some of the tricks for wood burning. Now, wood burning can be as challenging or as simple as you want to make it be. So the first thing that you're going to need is something to burn on. Now, wood burning is fun because you can burn on different types of things. So I have wood that we can burn on. I bought some different, this is a little plant stake that you can stick into a plant or in your garden. I bought little wooden planks if you want to do nameplates. You can burn onto things like cork. So I have some cork that I'm going to show you later. I've seen people burn on shoes. I've seen people burn on purses. I burn on hats. So all kinds of options. So I think the big thing is just to practice with your tools. If you aren't an experienced wood burner, and I do have some scrap pieces of wood for that will make it easy. One thing I highly suggest is to draw your pattern or design out on paper first. You can even cut it out as a template if you want to, because some of the materials that you burn on are hard to erase from. Well, the first project that I'm going to show you is going to be a plant stake, and I've already drawn mine out. It's going to say go sit on a cactus, so I've got some of my basics already on there. Now, I have a few different wood burners that I like to use. So I have some that are hot and ready. The nice thing about some of them, you can adjust the temperature. So depending on what you're burning on, if I'm burning on a really thick wool hat, I want it to be pretty hot and pretty high. On various corks or woods, sometimes you don't have to have the temperature up quite as high because you don't want to burn it quite so much. So I'm going to turn my temperature down about halfway. I'm going to let that set so that it cools just a bit because I had it set kind of hot. This one has a pointed tip on it. One of the things I wanted to show you with wood burning is that sometimes the tips of your wood burners can get a little bit dirty. So to clean them, you just take a small piece of sandpaper and you rub that tip back and forth on the sandpaper, and that will clean off any of the burnt or the dirty edges that were left behind. That way it doesn't get onto your project. So I'm going to slide that back out of the way, and we're going to go ahead and start working a little bit on this piece here. This one's going to say go sit on a cactus. So for starters, I've got my medium heat setting. I've got a pointed tip. I'm going to go ahead and start on my cactus first. And I'm just bringing that right along the lines that I drew with my pencil. Now, it's okay to turn it whatever direction works best for you. So you're going to notice that I do that a lot in working with mine. Now, if ever you notice that the burning is just not coming into your wood like you want it to, some woods have to have a little bit higher temperature, and that's okay. So I'm just going to kind of go right along my edges. Once again, I pre-drew my image with pencil on this little plant stake. And you want to go kind of slow. If you notice that it's burning too much, you might be going too slow, so you might need to speed up your drawing lines just a little bit. So you can already see how that's burning in there. The next thing I'm going to do is start adding some spikes or some needles, the pokey parts, to my cactus. Some of them will be lines, some of them will be V's. You can even make them in little X shapes. Your piece does not have to look exactly like mine, so keep that in your thoughts as you're designing what you want yours to look like, that they do not have to be the same. I'm doing some lines, I'm doing some X's. Some of them are going to kind of just look like V shapes. But these are the little spiky, pointy parts of my cactus, the part that nobody wants to touch. And I did not pre-draw this part on. I'm just kind of putting them where I think they need to be. Just kind of what looks right. Okay. So once I have all of those on there, the next part that I'm going to go to is the flower. So on the flower, I'm going to start in the center on that circle. I'm going to turn this just a little bit so I have a better angle. And you're going to notice it does smell when you wood burn. It gives kind of a hot smell, or like a fire burning smell. The smell kind of varies depending on what surface you're burning on. Wood definitely smells like a campfire or a fireplace. Okay, so I have my little circle in there. I'm going to turn my heat up just a little bit on my wood burner. And I'm going to go ahead and do these little lines that are going to be in the center of my flower. I did pre-draw those on with pencil, but that's not something you would have to pre-draw. You could probably wing that part. I like to pre-draw with pencil just because that way, if I make any mistakes, I have the opportunity to fix them. Once you wood burn, it's permanent. You can't get it off. You can color over it, you can try to change it, change your design, but you can't take the burning off once it's on there. Alright, so I have the little center parts of my flower. Now I'm going to go around those petals. You'll notice it's not a fast process. I go kind of slow. Now when you're wood burning on felt, I feel like the burners glide a little bit easier, so it is a little bit faster to burn than it is on wood. Your harder woods are going to be harder to burn. I mean, they'll take longer and you have to press a little bit harder. You have to wait for that burn mark to get in there. It takes a little longer for it to burn into the wood. Now these little plant stakes, they actually came from the Dollar Tree, so if this is something you decide you enjoy making, that's something you can pick up a packet of them at the Dollar Tree. I think 6 came in a pack, so what is the Dollar Tree's up to $1.25 now? So 6 of them for approximately $1.25. Would make a good Mother's Day gift. It's actually coming up on Sunday for those of you who want to make something for your mom. This would be a neat project for that. Or a grandmother. Or your favorite teacher. I'm sure you guys laughed at that one. Okay, so this one's getting close. I'm going to get my last petal here. Now that time I noticed I got a little bit off my pencil mark. If that happens, don't sweat it. You can always go back and erase your pencil line later on. Okay, so I have my first cactus with the flower. Now I'm going to come down here and do this little succulent cactus. So for this one, same thing. I'm just using the same tip. I'm going to go right over those pencil lines. And then on this one, I'm going to add just a little bit of texture. So once I get my lines traced, I'm going to go back in and just add a few little lines and dots. So let me go ahead and finish this one, and then I'll show you how I add some of that texture. Alright, so I have my succulent lines burned. I'm just going to go in and add a little bit of texture to show some depth on that background, and all I'm doing is just adding little lines to that three-dimensional layer, like where it looks like it's kind of folded back. I'm going to do that in each one of those little succulent pieces. Just little lines for a little bit of depth, a little bit of texture. That way it doesn't all look plain. Okay, so you can tell too where I've turned up my heat. This one's burning a little bit darker than it is over here. So this is when my heat was really low. If you don't like the looks of that, you can sure go back over it and make it darker. So I may not do the center lines, but I might at least go over the outside lines just to darken that side up just a little bit. So like I said, you can tell a difference on your heat, how dark it burns, how deep it burns. I had turned my heat up a little bit from the beginning, so that's what made that look a little bit lighter on the inside here. Now you can see where it's darker on the outside. Okay, I have a little bit of ground right here, so I'm just going to trace over where my ground is, and then I'm going to do just some dots to make it look like soil or sand. They're random. You can draw those on with pencil first if you want to, or if you do something like that, you can just kind of wing it as you go. So I'm just going to add a little bit of texture there. Okay, now I'm ready to do my letters. This is always the tricky part because you have to have a steady hand. So make sure you have it in an angle that you like and you feel comfortable with. Sorry about that. Alright, just going to turn this a little bit. Like I said, sometimes it's tricky to have a steady hand with that, but you just want to take your time and go slow. I'm going to go ahead and finish going over each of my letters, and then I'll show you the next step. Alright, so my plan on this little plant sign is to use some of these letter stamps to spell the word cactus. Now, I am honestly not sure how well it's going to stamp over the top of what I've already burned, but I'm going to give it a try and see. It might be a learning experience for you guys on whether or not that's a look that you like. I'm hoping that they'll stamp dark enough that it'll show up over the top of what I've already burned. it's neat because I have these little stamp letters. The downfall is I only have one size. So the word cactus is just barely going to fit across the length of my sign. So I'm going to go ahead and start with my letter C. I already have that in my wood burner. It is getting hot. Hopefully it's hot enough at this point. I just want to make sure I'm holding it right side up so that when I stamp the letter for the word cactus, it is in the right place. So I'm going to start with my letter C. You just press it onto the wood, hold it there for a little bit. It might steam some, and then when you pick it up, it should have that letter on there. Now I know that I have 2 C's in the word cactus, so I don't want to have to change out my tip any more than I have to. So I'm going to slide these over, see if I can make room for the next letter C. It's going to fit, let's see if I slide this one over just a little bit. It's going to fit right in here. I'm going to go ahead and stamp that one next. I'm going to stamp it right down next to where I've placed my A for when I do my A. All right, so I'm going to do one more letter C. There it goes. Now, remember when you change out the tips, the directions were to always use a pair of pliers because they're going to be super hot. So I'm going to take out that letter C. I'm just twisting that out with my pliers. Okay, C is done. I'm going to set it on my cookie sheet, my pan for hot pieces. If I set this on the counter, it's going to be hot. It could burn. Do not touch it with your hands. Give it a chance to cool down. Now I'm going to take my letter A. This one's cool, so I'm touching it with my hands. I'm going to place it into my pliers to put into my hot wood burner. So I'm just going to stick that into the top of the hot wood burner, twist it until it's tight and in place. And then I just have to wait for a minute or two for that to heat up, and then I'll stamp the A. I'm going to do the same with the rest of the letters for the word cactus. And then here's my final look after I stamped all of those letters. So it worked out good. I have a few of them that got a little bit dark. I got them a little too hot before I stamped them. But my cactus does show through the background. So that's just another tool that you can use if you want to use those different tips. So that is a simple way to do some wood burning. I wanted to show you how wood burning can even be more elaborate than that it doesn't have to just be simple. You can actually make a nice art piece with it. So on this little piece of wood, I've drawn a cow. I'm going to be honest with you. I like to draw my pictures out on paper first. So you'll notice I did that. I cut it out and used it as a template. That way all of my proportions are right. And then I just traced it right onto my wooden piece. Okay. So feel free to do that. If you want to draw it on paper first so that you know you get it the way you like it, then go ahead and trace it onto your piece of wood. I just wanted to show you how you can do a little bit more with wood burning besides just making those simple type of things. So most of mine is just simple lines on this cow. I'm just going to kind of show you how I can come over those pencil lines. If for some reason you can't get on top of all of them, just know that you can come back and erase them later. So nothing really neat here. I'm just kind of going over the lines that I've made. Some of them are zigzaggy, some of them are pointed. Just kind of coloring in on those. So kind of gives you an idea there. I'm going to turn it, do a little bit more on this other side. Some of those lines kind of cross over the tops of others. Come over here and get a few of those little wispy ones here on the ends. Like I said, if you don't feel like you get right on the pencil line, it's not a big deal because you can go back and erase those later. So I just have kind of a series of lines going on with this little guy. Just kind of going over the tops of those. It's starting to come together a little more. I have a few that I've missed right in here. I'm going to come back in for. So it's kind of, like I said, on this one, it's not very precise. It's just very messy little line strokes. So I'm going to do that here for the eye area. Once again, if you don't like the darkness, you can always adjust the heat of your wood burner if it has a heat range on it. Some of them just have an on-off switch, and that's okay. But some of them do have temperature settings, so you can change those as needed. On this one, I'm not burning too deep into the wood. I'm just kind of getting the darkness where I want it. I want it to be just a little darker right here, so I'm going to press and hold that wood burner for a little bit longer just to kind of get a little darker color. Okay, and then I'm going to go right along this line, right along this ear line here. Just kind of falls off the side of the page. And then I just want to do a little hair kind of coming from that line just to rough it up a bit there so it's not quite so precise. Same thing down here. These are just kind of shaggy furry lines. They just kind of fall off the side of the page there. I'm going to do some right here under the eye. So like I said, I just wanted to show you that you can do more with wood burning than just feeling like a simple, you know, like I know the little plant stake that I made was not super artistic. It was cute, but you can actually create some pretty neat art using a wood burner. Okay. And if you notice, I feel like this piece is going really fast. I don't feel like it's taking me very long. It probably took me longer to draw my pencil version than what it's actually taking me to add the wood burning technique. And just remember, if you're wanting some darker places, the longer you hold that wood burner into one spot, it's going to burn darker in that spot if you hold it there a longer time. So if you want it to be lighter, you kind of move it faster. Don't stay in that position for very long. I'm going to turn mine so I can come over here to this side. And on this one, I just have my plain tip, just my plain little pointed tip, nothing fancy. Remember, if it gets dirty, you can clean that on a piece of sandpaper just to get some of the burnt pieces off of it. I'm going to go ahead and come right down here on the side of the face. Once again, not very neat lines. I'm just kind of going back and forth with my burner. And do a few underneath the eye. Just is a piece that kind of looks like it has some good texture to it. So let's see, right here on these pencil lines, I have a feeling the eyes are going to be the hardest part to this piece. So that's the part I'm saving for last, of course. I'm going to go ahead and turn it, do a little bit of fur coming down from those ears. Up here at the top of the ear as well. Once again, I'm just going back and forth with my wood burner, almost like I'm coloring. Do a more solid line here at the top of the ear. And note, you'll see that it kind of gets a little darker if I leave it on there longer. Alright, let's see here. I might do this side a little bit darker too. Good. Alright, so I've got most of the outline of the cow. I'm ready to do the nose next. So I'm just going to kind of do some tufts of fur, just kind of right here at the top of the nose. I know I'm spinning mine around a lot. I work better from one direction than I do another. Just going to do some line strokes across the nose for some shadow. The whiter spots of the wood will look more like highlights. And then I'm just going to bring that around the shape of the snout or muzzle. Going a little bit slower here because I want to try to stay on the lines. Make this part just a little bit more precise. Okay, so I've got his little mouth. I'm going to do just a little bit of shadow on that under lip, so I'm just doing some lines there. Okay. And then he has some nostrils, so this is where it's going to be a little bit darker, so I'm going to have to hold my wood burner a little longer to get those darker pieces. Good. Same thing here. So if you hold that wood burner in place just a little bit longer, you tend to get those darker colors. Just doing a little bit of shadowing around it, kind of going fast so it doesn't get too dark in those areas. Okay, I think I like that. Let's go just a little more right here. Okay. All right, now I'm ready for the part that I told you I thought was going to be the hardest part, and that's going to be the eyes. So I'm going to turn it. I'm going to start at the corner of the eye and come out. And I'm okay with my cow having some lashes. I think that's fine. I'm just kind of coming out. It looks like there's a little bit of lashes going on there, and then I'm just going to do a straight line on the underside towards the back. Okay, not bad for that one. Okay, so then on the inside of the eye, I'm going to go around that circular part. I'm going to do just a little bit darker part for a pupil, and then I'm just going to kind of fill that in. I do want the eye to look kind of darker there. I think I'm okay with that. It's not as bad and not as hard as I thought it would be. I'm going to do a little shadowing underneath. Okay. And then I'm going to come over and do the same thing on this other side. I'm going to start on the underside of the eye and bring that back. And then on the top of the eye, I'm just doing some smaller line strokes. It almost looks like lashes coming out. Didn't quite get to the center here, so let me fix that. Do the circle inside the eye. And then I'm just going to fill it in with darkness. Okay, a little bit of shadow under that one. Alright, and then just like that, I've burned myself a cow. The next piece that I wanted to show you is actually cork board. So you can do little thumbtack things with this. This one has adhesive on the back. It has a little layer that you can peel off and stick. I actually got this cork at Dollar Tree, so you can get them in a sheet like this at Dollar Tree. You can cut them into halves or into fourths to have different sizes. I can't remember how many came in a package. I'm thinking maybe 4 sheets in a package. I was trying to remember if, I don't think I have the package here at home to see. So I think there are a couple sheets, I don't know, maybe just 1 per package. But they were only $1.25 at the Dollar Tree. So just know that that's another cheap way. So on this one, I did a similar type thing. I actually drew out my pheasant on paper first. I cut it out because I didn't want to have to try to erase on cork. I thought that would be too hard. So I cut it out and then I traced it onto my cork. I traced this one with Sharpie because pencil doesn't show up so well. So when I burn, I'm going to have to make sure I'm careful and go over the top of that Sharpie as exact and precise as I can. I didn't do all of the detail work when I drew it out, but I am going to do some more detail work when I burn it onto my piece. So once again, I'm using the same tip. I have some tips that are narrower and skinnier, and then I have some that are more round. So you can choose the tip that you like the most. I have already started outlining just to make sure that everything would show up well on there for you for the video. So I'm just going to let you watch a little bit, just kind of see how this goes. I'm going right on top of those Sharpie lines with my wood burner. So I'm going to go ahead and come to the beak area here and try to finish that part off. The cork is going to be a little bit bumpier than your wood surface, so you have to be careful if you get into the grooves of the cork. Sometimes that can mess you up just a little bit. I'm going to add just a little dot on my beak there, and then I'm going to come around the shapes that I drew for the eye. Okay. Now on my pheasant, I wanted to give him some detail. So I'm going to be adding that a little bit here and there as we go with this pheasant. one of the things that I wanted to do is a little bit of darks and lights. So up here along the head, I am just using kind of the side of my wood burner tip, not quite on the point. I've got it kind of held sideways, adding just a little bit of dark spots through there. I'm going to do the same thing up here on the top of the head too. So like right in this section, I'm just going to add a little bit of darkness in that spot. Under the white band of the neck, I'm just doing some little V shapes. This is to give it just a little bit of texture and maybe even kind of give it the appearance that there might be some feathers in that area. So like I said, just kind of some V shapes coming through this space. So some of the light's going to show through of the cork, and then there'll be some darker spaces as well. That's going to come all the way down through this back area. Up until I get to these feathers back here. So like I said, this is just V shapes that I'm making. It's okay if they overlap just a little bit. It's just to give the appearance of some feathers and some texture on the back of my pheasant here. It's not too bad. I kind of like that. All right, so now I'm going to come in on my pheasant's wing. You've noticed that I've already done some outlining on that, but I'm going to put some spots. So feathers are not always perfect. They kind of have some spots that come through. So I'm just, like I said, using the tip of my burner, coming in, adding those spots. And then the next thing that I'm going to do is bring that wing up just a little bit with some of those lines. So just taking those lines up a little bit farther and narrower. I'm doing those lines fairly fast so they look a little bit wispy-like. Okay. And then the next section I'm going to do is go ahead and go around these feathers too. So I'm just going to start here and bring that feather in. And I'm going to do that on each one of these. So that will take just a minute to go around all of those. You're going to notice that mine is not going to look perfect. So don't sweat it if you get off the lines just a little bit. I know that I did this one in Sharpie, so I can't erase the Sharpie, but if I need to go back over the lines with the wood burner just to cover them up, I don't think that that's going to show that much. So like right here, I got off a little bit. I'm just going to bring this line a little closer to try to cover that up. Okay, so I've got all that next section of wing outlined with my wood burner. I'm going to give it just a little bit of texture as well. So in these, I'm just going to do just a few little stripes, nothing too dark. Just a few little lines across them, just to give it kind of a different layer, a different look. So the first layer had some dots. These we're just going to do a few little lines. Okay, good. All right, so my next section is going to be these big long feathers out here on the end. With these, once again, I'm going to add a little bit more detail, a little bit more design. So I'm going to bring those feathers in. I'm just outlining them at this time. And then, I don't know how many of you have seen pheasant feathers, but they kind of have stripes on them. So that's what I'm going to go for with my next look, is to try to mimic the look of some of those real feathers on a pheasant. These would also be, this would be done the same way on the tail feathers when I get ready for the tail feathers, okay? So I got off my lines just a little bit right here, so I'm just adding a little shading in that space. There we go. Okay, so on these feathers, like I said, I just wanted to add a little bit of a striped look to them. So here we go. I'm just going to come in, and I'm just kind of zigzagging up in certain spots of them. And it doesn't have to be exact, but like I said, I'm just kind of adding some zigzags here and there to kind of give it that look of having some stripes to it almost. And it's not going to be perfect. You're not going to get the same precise lines with a wood burner that you would with a pen or a pencil. So please keep that in mind. Okay, I like the looks of that. I'm going to do just a little bit of shading on some of these feathers too. And all I'm doing is just bringing my burnt area, using the side tip of my burner and just bringing those feathers down a little bit darker. in the centers. Okay, all right, so I've got that section of the wing done. I'm going to kind of mimic that onto this back wing. Okay, so I filled in the back feathers or wings to match the front wings, and now I'm ready to do the tail feathers. So I'm going to turn it to the side so you can watch some of the technique here. First thing I'm going to do is just like the rest of it. I'm just going to go in and try to outline those feathers the best that I can. And these are going to be longer ones, so sometimes with the longer lines it's hard to keep them straight. If you get off your Sharpie mark, just go ahead and go back over it. It's not going to hurt anything. So I'm just kind of coming in where I think my Sharpie lines are. I want to try to cover them the best that I can. Missed a little bit of that line right there, so I'm just coming back over it. So just filling in anywhere where I have Sharpie marks. So right in here. It's really starting to come together. It's neat to see all of that come through. Okay, so I have my outline marks, and now I'm going to try to mimic this style right here where I have some of those zigzagged lines coming in there. So I'm just kind of going back and forth with my wood burner. It's giving it that image of having some darker spots and lighter spots. I don't want them to line up exactly from feather to feather, so I'm trying to space those out a little bit. So like here I have a stripe. I don't want to do one right next to it, so I'm going to just kind of come in right under it on this one. Like I said, it's almost like kind of a zigzag type back and forth motion to give it the appearance of having some stripes. So I'm going to keep doing that throughout all of the feathers until I have all of that filled in. Now, a piece like this could actually make a nice gift for someone too. So this one could be matted and framed just like any other piece of artwork. So if you're thinking that you might want to put a little more time and effort into your wood burning piece, maybe choose a bigger piece of cork instead of wood. This could be an alternative option for you. You still get the same look, but once again, it can be matted and framed. If you have a project in mind and you have just the right piece of wood at home that you're wanting to use, feel free to bring something in. I know most of the pieces I have are fairly small, so you know, feel free if you have something you're wanting to do. I am game for that. One year I had a family that they had knocked down a grandparent's barn, and so they had asked me about wood burning into some pieces of barn board if they sanded them down, so that each family member could have a piece of that barn to take home with them. So I thought that was kind of a cool thing. So if you had something special, you know, maybe you have a wooden stool at home that you want to burn into. Like I said, the more personal it is, the better. I'm just going to add a little bit more dots right into here and fill that space in just a little bit. I don't know, I kind of like the way that it looks. And then when you're all done, you can actually sign it. If I want to, I can go back. I haven't decided yet if I'm going to add more to this piece, but I could go back and add some brush, like it was flying up out of the brush. You could add trees, grass. Maybe you want to have another pheasant in the background. I know, like, our principal loves pheasant hunting, so maybe I would even want to use those letter stamps that we used earlier and stamp in the name Mr. Hendrickson or something like that, or you could personalize it with your last name. There's lots you could do with a piece like this. I'm going to go ahead and sign my name. I'm going to do that with the wood burner. And you'll notice I have to go back over it a couple of times. It doesn't always like to cover that first time through. So I've got my name signed. Just remember to turn off your wood burners when you're done. I do just want to show you a few other projects, some things that you can do with wood burning. So other things that you can do for wood burning can include just different projects of leather. So I was trying to see if I could get this without having so much shadow. There we go. So this is just a shoe that I bought at TJ Maxx. They started out plain like this one. So nothing too fancy. It's just a regular old sandal made out of leather strap. I bought mine for $29. You could buy something cheaper if you wanted to do something like that to burn onto. So like I said, this is just a leather sandal. It has to be leather, otherwise it's not going to burn. So like if you got a plasticky one, it's not going to burn the same. But that is another option for wood burning. I just did the little flower along the side of that. So wanted to show you that project. Like I said, even if you have some old leather shoes at home that you don't wear, if you wanted to try to burn into them, that's a possibility too. This one's going to be a little bit harder to see. Let me see if I can raise up my camera here. You're going to see some mess here on my work table. But this is a hat, and what I've done on this hat is I have just done a little bit of wood burning on the side. So this one has some arrow and flowers on this side. And then over on this side where the hat band is, let me see if I can tip that and show you. See if I can get my camera to stand again now that I've messed with it. It has just a little bit of a flower on that side as well. This is a felt hat. You can burn into wool hats as well. So this one just has some words on the sides of it, on the underside, just to show you some different things that you can do other than just burning on wood. So definitely an art to wood burning. I hope that you guys enjoyed learning a little bit about it. I know this video got a little long, but this is one of the skills that I feel like I'm well trained in, and I wanted to be able to share that with you. So keep in mind that you can do a simple project just to show me that you've learned the techniques of wood burning. You can also do something more elaborate if you choose to. Those more elaborate pieces could count towards a free choice piece if you choose to put a little extra effort into it. So thanks for watching today. Hope you guys enjoyed learning about wood burning. I can't wait to see what you create.